I'm RJ Johan, your host for the session, and thank you for tuning in. That said, if you guys want to contribute to our topics, have any questions, or just want to tell us what an amazing job we are doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. So, for this edition of the Reality Bank, we are going to have a special show regarding the wildfires in California. And indeed, we have Johan here with us. It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, good to be back, both of us, after a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while.
Mm,
So let's jump right into it. So
yeah.
my very first question is going to be now, can you briefly explain what happened during the Jan 2025 California wildfires?
Uh, I mean, it's quite impossible to be very brief about it, but
Yeah,
I'll try my best to, but still explain everything what happened. It all began like around January 7th, I think. This was in
yeah,
the 10:30 in the morning. People started looking at seeing like a large, image or shape of a smoke that's appearing, throughout the Malibu sky. And this smoke point was the origin of the smoke was what people are saying was from the southeast of the Palisades Drive.
yeah,
And people saw this massive amount of smoke, and that shocked many people. And they watched, all of them watched it from like a distance. And but At that point, nobody, all the people were really shocked looking at the smoke. Nobody realized what's going to happen. People couldn't really anticipate anything by looking at that. But what the records say is that when they saw the smoke, at least 10 acres of had already been burned by then.
yeah,
But people weren't aware of it. But within 2 hours, within just 2 hours, so in 10:30 they saw this. By 12:30, from 10 acres it burned over 200 acres within
yeah,
just 2 hours. So you're seeing people over there are in the traffic, and there are pictures actually of like all those traffic, the massive traffic, in the Sunset Boulevard. And people are just trying to like just run away, trying to evacuate from the place because of all the fire. It damaged homes, cars, roads. It damaged a lot of people. Unfortunately, had died also due to this fire. And at this point, it was burning from both sides of the road at the Palisades Drive. And
yeah,
what from 12 within 2 hours, and then from 2 hours, within 3 hours, from 200 acres it came close to 1,300 acres got burned by then. So you're talking about like six times, more than the previous size that it's getting burned. And within another 3 hours, another fire is emerging, and that in the Altadena, that was called the Eaton fire. This one quickly began in the residential areas in the neighborhoods. And the thing is, you're seeing that also there are like videos. You can see people, without like shoes. They're just running. They just
yeah,
like running away, getting out of the homes, running away. Some people have not, done anything. They've gone, taken their car, and they just ran away from that place. And you're seeing people running, struggling, breathing. It's a very chaotic moment to see. And within very few hours, it ended up burning, multiple acres. It reached up to like 80 miles within just 1 hour. And
yeah,
it was a very devastating situation, because they had a fire also that started coming from another place. And within another 4 hours, you are seeing firefighters are really working. And we need to really appreciate the firefighters, how much they've been working during these times, because the fire remained active for nearly 8 days, over there, for the Eaton fire. For till Jan 16th, the fire was going on. And the men, a lot of them haven't ended up sleeping also, because it spread up to 800 acres, by then, in the beginning, by then. And by next day, it spread much worse. The Palisades one, the fire, from 1,300 to 3,000 acres, it started burning. And I can keep going on and on and on, in detail about how much, they ended up, uh, the fire get consumed. But towards the end, just to give people an idea how this fire spread day by day, towards the end, both these fires ended up burning at least 40,000 acres. Every
yeah,
day, more and more and more, started burning close to 40,000. And this is just two of the fires that I'm mentioning. There are more other fires also that ended up happening in California, but this was one of the two fires. But these are the two main ones that ended up affecting California. But there were other fires also. So it was really nine fires from nine different places that ended up coming together and creating the chaos that it ended up becoming.
Yeah. So now, of course, we know like for any fire to start, there has to be three elements. That is, the fuel, the oxygen, and the heat.
Hmm.
So, which brings me on to the next question. Now, there have been a lot of rumors circulating like how these fires started. So, what according to you are the main factors that contributed to the intensity and the rapid spread of these wildfires?
One, I mean, before getting into the main reason that people have been really pinpointing out, one of the reasons that I feel is it's drought, mainly because
Yeah.
California it's been a very dry period for California in a very long time, It's below average rainfall for them over the past few years. That has killed for them vegetation and forest and uh, open lands have really been, in a very devastating situations, and they've been in such dry conditions that they ended up becoming very unfortunately when it reaches to such dry conditions, they become highly flammable, right?
Yeah.
So because of that, I think that is one of the things that led to this. And also one of the reasons that I also feel like talking about is climate change, right? And
Yeah.
it's not a joke, it is really such a big problem. It is one of the biggest, or some you can call even say consider it to be the biggest concern in the world as of now, and that is climate change. And because California has seen that climate change has affected California's seasons, more and more and more. The temperature have raised like skyrockets for them over the past few years, and for them even yeah, because of that when it affected, when the winters come, and because of that also affected, the rainfall. It was very bad condition for them. Another one is that people also said that could have been that played a huge role is the Santa Ana winds,
Yeah.
which I don't know about it actually until I was researching about the incident. It is apparently it happens every year. It's very common in Southern California. These winds apparently it happens during the fall and winter months. So it happens like when there's very high pressure system, like the air pushes downhill towards the Pacific coast. So this
Yeah.
also ended up, it reached hurricane level, level of speeds that exceeded into many areas, and this also ended up playing a massive role into, why the fire also ended up spreading much worse. And also I also think one of the main reasons it spread is because unpredictability, right?
Yeah.
Nobody ever predicted something like this would ever happen. And the people in California, for them, they've seen wildfire like this, but affecting to in this way, they were not, ready or to take, for these things. So because of that, the precautions obviously they weren't able to take because they couldn't predict this moment. So that
Yeah.
was also, I think, one of the main reasons also that I feel. But one reason that a lot of people have been telling is the main reason why the wildfire happened is because of infrastructure failures and human activities. Now, a lot of people are saying it's because of power line, failures that this has happened, and a lot of people saying that during that time, early investigations, it showed that because of power line failures, because of high winds, it sparked some of the fires apparently.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the that many people are saying that is the main reason why the fire ended up spreading so badly over the just couple of days. Within 8 days you're seeing such horrible, and the thing is like the fire, it hasn't stopped. The fire is still,
Yeah.
it's
It's
still
still on the
continuing.
way. Yeah.
People are, places are still getting burned, houses are still getting burned. And at this time also, I think we also the sad thing is that people are talking about, celebrities who are losing their house. Of course it's sad, but it affected the local citizens more than the celebrities. That is one of the things
Exactly.
that people didn't end up talking about it, because in the end of the day, they're celebrities, right? Financially, they're a lot more secure than the local citizens over there.
Yeah.
So for them to, build a house from scratch, it is a very difficult thing. But for them, they still, they're able to do it. But for for a local citizen over there, it's it's a whole lot of extra work for them to start building a house and financially getting all the money for it to raise a house again. And it's a when you have so many years your work to build a house, and it goes all down for them. It's
Yeah.
I think it's just mentally very devastating for them as well to see these moments.
Yeah. You spoke me mostly about the reasons. I'll just add just a little bit in there. So,
Hmm.
apparently, last year in 2024, California was supposed to get rains in the month of October, around
Hmm.
that. But as you said, there were not enough rainfall. Like I heard, like just like few months earlier, like there was rainfall for like 2 days, which um, like 50% more rainfall was seen in that
Hmm.
time. But then again, that was a double-edged sword
Hmm.
because, of course, vegetation and all were flourishing at that time. But then again, in the drought season, there's not enough water. The riverbed dried up,
Hmm.
and all these small plants, these shrubs, they absorb a lot more water,
Hmm.
and that's when causes a lot more of the other vegetation to dry up. So,
Hmm.
and speaking about the power lines and all, I did end up seeing a video while researching. It was from a fuel station, like the CCTV camera footage, like a little bit uphill. You can see that like there's these sparks that happen in
Yeah.
these power lines, and then suddenly it just erupts into a massive fire, and then it starts
Yeah.
spraying down, and which was very devastating to see.
Hmm.
And speaking about the major damages and all, that brings me to my third question. Now, how have these wildfires affected, the local communities and the overall environment so far?
So, one of the things is people lost their lives during the wildfire. I think that is
Yeah,
one of the, one thing that we need to address, that it's not just residents that people have lost. It's also like people have lost their lives over there. A lot of people, although there are people who died, but then there are also people who are like physically they were wounded also during this time. You're
yeah,
talking about, people who have lost houses, they have lost cars, they have lost pretty much everything that they have owned, like all their assets and belongings, all of them were burned down the ground during this time.
yeah,
So I think like I mentioned earlier, right, when everything you have worked hard for is to have a good livelihood, and you're seeing a fire that has just completely destroyed that life of yours, and where you will have to there are people who have worked 15 to 20 years to have this sort of a happy lively life, and all of that just got burned down the ground within just a couple of minutes. And that
yeah,
is just one of the it's a very sad thing to see, right? And like over 16,000 structures were destroyed. And when I mean by structured, it's it's not just houses, it's schools, it's this
yeah,
it's colleges, it's all the business, the buildings, the company buildings, and the community landmarks. You're talking about restaurants and hotels, and like the list can keep going on. 16,000 plus buildings got destroyed during this time, and fire caused billions of dollars in damages. Financially also, like I mentioned earlier, people are they have to build their lives, and they have to navigate their insurance claims as well, and it's a very difficult situation for them in that way, because it's a lot of money also, because it's not just about building a house. Even from the government side, the amount of money that they also have to spend for this wildfire is it's pretty crazy, because a lot of the heads, the ones who are the head of the governments, all of them ended up, they're giving the 100% to it. The governor of California missed the former president Jimmy Carter's funeral just for just so that he can sit and just he can work on the California wildfire. Kamala
yeah,
Harris also has she also had a couple of like meetings across the country. She has cancelled all of it to be over here. So there are works coming from different sides. Another thing is, I think in terms of like health, right? The air quality is one of the things that people have been talking about, how you know uh, how the toxic, because of the toxic exposure of all the burn structures, and released pollutants like lead and asbestos. The thing is, like, when these houses burn, like, all these electronic gadgets also end up burning, right?
Yeah.
So when these electronic gadgets also end up burning, that's really bad for the for us, for for when it comes to breathe, when for us breathing ways. And
Yeah.
this will lead to a lot of respiratory issues that people also, that they saw. And it's just like how an earthquake comes, and it's somewhat it disrupts the economics, the the economic crisis, and the economic crisis happens. The same thing I think has happened with this wildfire. I think in that way, you're talking about people have lost their jobs, and you're talking about people, they're the fact that some people have to start looking for another job also.
Yeah.
That's just a very sad thing. So although I was earlier talking about starting their their career, they're starting, they're building their house from scratch. Some of them don't even have jobs anymore. So everything that they've built, everything went down the ground for them. And I think it's impacted the environment a lot, right? I mean,
Yeah, it does.
you're seeing so many animals have survived. The animals have survived, but there were also many killed. So a lot of people, the concern is also about protecting the animals during this time. Uh, it's very difficult for people to also look at it and that way, and protect the animals during this time. And I think that is a sad part in general, where where there are very few humans who genuinely care, for the protection of animals. And
Yeah.
during this wildfire, that also is going to completely go away, because they have to focus on getting their lives straightened out. And I think that is a very sad situation. And also, like, when you were telling about the rains, no, I was
Yeah.
seeing I got like the I saw some thing at just couple of hours back, that I think yesterday or today, I think it rained a little bit in LA.
Yeah,
I'm not
it
very
did.
sure when it rained, but it rained. And they also said because of that, uh, all the ashes that also might get collected to the rain, right?
Hmm.
And that is also very unsafe for the environment. So
Yeah.
although it's a very sad thing that at this moment also, that it's not going to help them that much.
Yeah, that's it. And especially like you were talking about schools, homes, and all being destroyed. So just a while earlier, I happened to read this article by the New York Times, and the way these kids are being interviewed, and the way they're just so hurt about their schools being destroyed. They have to start going to new schools, getting new
Mm,
friends, and they're literally coming from a place they called home, and now they are just moving to a place that they barely know. And these are not
mm,
like kids like that are of our age, or at least
mm,
like above 16 or something. These are like 6, 7, 8-year-old kids
mm,
who I don't know, it's just a very hurtful thing to see or hurtful thing to read, especially in this entire crisis.
mm. That's true.
Yeah, so moving on to my final question now, what lessons can we learn from these wildfires, and what steps can be taken to prevent like further wildfires, or at least this much of damage to be prevented?
So I think the most important thing that that we need to, one of the lessons that we need to learn is uh, climate change is an actual thing.
Yeah.
It's an actual problem. It is it's the biggest crisis, I think at this point that the world will be facing. And I think if people are not going to take a serious measures actually to to save the to save our own planet, to and I think the people who don't make a big deal out of it, and look at what has happened this time. You're talking, just one second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking about you know p you're talking about people's lives that have gotten ruined. You're talking about an entire state that's just suffering in fire. And that may one of the main reasons, although there were other reasons that mentioned, climate change played a massive role in that, right? Because
Yeah.
of the climate change, because of how dry the forest ended up becoming during this time, how as it is the it has affected the vegetation for them. So it has affected the crops, it has and already people are struggling, and imagine now the fact that Yeah, that there's already, loss of vegetation. Like imagine, in terms of like food also, it's going to be very difficult for them.
Yeah,
So why climate change is important is because even at this crisis, you need to understand, people will also have shortage of food, they'll have shortage of water, and climate change has a lot to do with that. And that's why, as much as you see all these environmentalists vandalizing all these art museums that we keep seeing, right?
yeah.
I mean, vandalizing is not the the
Solution.
solution to saving the planet, but you can't sit and tell what they're doing is what they're standing for. You can't say that they're wrong, they're being crazy about it. What they're
Mm.
saying is absolutely true with everything that's been happening. And also, another thing is how, how people were unprepared. Like I said, everyone, it was they were caught off guard by, by how fast, within, you're talking within just a couple of hours, within a day, from 10 acres that, a fire, and people saw smoke, and from that, within a day, you're seeing more than 1,000 acres that just got burned over there,
Yeah,
in California. So people, and evacuating was became a very problem for them. Communication became a huge problem for them, and because of that, it led people to very, dangerous situations. And uh, because uh, because of these situations where they were not able to prepare themselves, a lot of them have completely lost, everything, and there was no way they could figure out, what to do the moment, the situation happened. So because at those when after everything happens, the sad part is you can't do anything and bring it back, right? So
yeah,
the best thing to do at these moments is to take precautions. And during this time, the it a lot of them have to fill their insurance also. In US, insurance is such a, they may it's very important over there, filling up the insurance for them. And
yeah,
these kind of precautions that they will that that they will be, they will take, uh, hopefully that people will figure out. I don't think there's a certain solution that we can say to, this unpredictability. Despite, you preparing and keeping yourself ready, still, it's going to affect these kind of natural calamities will affect you in some way or the other. And another thing is, I think, one of the things is affected is it the challenges they faced in like resource allocations,
yeah,
like firefighters and the emergency, the responders, they were in shortage of equipments, of funds, and they were struggling to like combat like multiple fires at the same time. You're talking about like 9 fires that are happening at the same time.
yeah,
And they also did not they were also, quite surprised for this. And the amount of so a lot of people are also talking about how much people need to, there needs to be more investment made for firefighting resources.
yeah.
And
Especially in like places that
yeah, go on. Oh, so I'll continue with one more thing is, how about how the
yeah,
vulnerability, of the urban wildlife interfaces. That is one
yeah,
of the things that I would like to discuss, because homes and communities in the wildland areas, they have been impacted the most. That's one of the things that people should be talking about, because it's talking about, how the risk of expanding the urban development, how people end up moving a little bit towards the outside the urban places. And it's very sad that people haven't spoken about the fact that these are the people that have been affected mostly, because it ended up burning the trees and the forest. And it's the first people who got affected is the people who have lived in, near there, the ones who lived outside the urban places. So that we need to talk about that, talk about that as well, how the fact that they also, they couldn't because of financial reasons. Obviously, not everybody can afford, a place to live in the central side of California. So a lot of them do end up living
yeah,
really in the, like, towards the forest side. And it's not like just a couple of people, it's many people who end up living. And
yeah,
after this, I think some sort of precautions that, that they can also take, like this, after knowing that, what are the kind of danger that they can face, at living this. So I think those precautions also should be taken. Yeah, you were saying something right before you got.
Yeah, so actually, these areas are very prone to wildfires, as we have seen, like from 2018, which was said to be the largest one. Then 2020, though,
Hmm.
I don't know what happened, it just tripled the amount. And then back in 2021, it was a little bit lesser. But then 2023, 2024 was okay. Now 2025, it's like a much massive scale compared to 2022.
Hmm.
So I mean, at least back into like sorry 2020, not 2022. So at
Hmm.
least back in 2020, they should have given more resources to the firefighting team, because these things are almost like every single year they cannot
Hmm.
prevent it. I mean, there are certain preventions, but it's not going to stop fires from taking place. At least like
Hmm.
a few acres of land will go, it is bound to happen.
Hmm.
But at least they should have allocated the resources a lot more fluidly at that time, so at least they
Hmm.
could be somewhat prepared for what happened earlier this year. And that was that effect they really need to do. And as well, I think there's a certain method that farmers use. So basically, when crops go too tall, like
Hmm.
we're talking about dry crops, they
Hmm.
usually like start cutting it down or start trimming it down to where they're like you know below knee level or around your ankle level, around that. So that apparently helps stop fires, apparently, from what I've heard.
Hmm.
So at least those precautions they could take, or something like that. And also the meteorology department, they actually gave a fire alert, like there could be fire, there could not be fire. Actually,
Hmm.
that's a routine thing that happens every single year. And people, like, I don't think people were prepared for the wind speed and all, because
Yeah.
as I was reading through the articles and all, I came across a glimpse of small text that read the wind speed was around 100 miles per hour or something like that. And there's a small clip it was showing like how that. So they have that wind thing, right, which checks how much
Hmm.
the wind is, and that thing was going extremely fast. And
Hmm.
I don't think people were really prepared for the rapid, you know, spread of the fire. Maybe they thought, okay, fine, it'll spread to a certain extent, and the firefighting team could, stop it. But I don't
Hmm.
think they were really prepared for the rate of the fire where it was spreading.
Hmm.
That was way too rapid.
Yeah, and like also when you said that they need to invest on like fighter, for the firefighters, they need to invest more on their equipments, right? One thing
Yeah,
people need to know is this is not the largest deadliest wildfire that has been faced in California. They have faced
yeah,
even worse wildfires than this. The worst one they faced
exactly.
was, I think, in 2018. That
Mm,
was close to 100,000 acres, got burned during that time. Here
yeah,
you're talking about 40,000 there, 100,000 acres got burned during that time in California.
yeah,
So, I know, and people have spoken about how California is prone to wildfire, to wildfire. It's not something that was completely new that came out.
yeah,
But it's still, we are, I'm not here to do any sort of a comparison or anything, but still, it's very, sad to see, what has happened, and I will then and we wish everything goes best for the people also living over there. Hope everything goes well planned for them.
yeah. It was.
Mm.
So remember, guys, we air on Mondays at 4:30 p.m. That's it. If you guys want to contribute our topics, have any questions, or just want to tell us what an amazing job you're doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. And a huge thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this edition of The Reality Bang, your weekly dose of youth power, brought to you by FEBA Online. This is RJ Johan. Hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you next Monday. God bless you.